This podcast is brought to you by the Pacific Neuroscience Institute Foundation. Are you looking to support your memory and optimize your quality of life? Develop a healthy brain for brighter days at PNI's Lifestyle Program, available virtually and in person. Reserve your spot today. Visit pacificlifestyle.org to learn more.
Hello, this is Anthony Effinger. I'm the host of the Think Neuro podcast at Pacific Neuroscience Institute. And today I'm talking with a participant in one of the clinical trials of psilocybin at PNI. And we're going to hear about her experience today. Vicki, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Anthony.
Let's start at the very beginning. How did you get involved in the PNI study?
Okay, well, this is kind of fun. So I'm walking my dog here in Santa Monica, and I always have NPR in my ears. And I hear an advertisement that said, hey, if you want to reduce the amount of alcohol you're drinking or quit drinking altogether, join our psilocybin study. And I thought, I would like to do that. So I called them up. They're 6 blocks from my house. I needed to go in for an interview. I needed to get a physical. I needed to be healthy. And I needed to qualify for this study, and I did. And after the interview, a couple of interviews actually, they called me up maybe a month later and said, I'm in.
You literally heard about it on the radio.
Yeah.
And went in and did the necessary qualification, filled out all the forms, and then what?
So then, okay, so it's a 14-week study. And by the way, I'd love to share with you about why I joined. For maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I've been questioning my relationship with alcohol. I would absolutely say I am an alcoholic, but I'm not an extensive drinker or an excessive drinker. I am a daily drinker, and maybe a glass or two of wine. When that 5 o'clock came around, I always wanted that wine. I needed, as Marlon Brando said in one of the early movies, that click in your head. You know, I need that click in my head. I think it was Marlon. Anyway, that would tell me everything was okay, right? That click once I had my drink. But my big concern with my addiction was not so much how much I was drinking, but the longevity of it. So I'm 60 years old, and I've been drinking since my teens, let's say 18. And, you know, I grew up in a family that it was part of our DNA. My father was an alcoholic, and he and my mother entertained every day, not every day, but frequently. So that social drinking was absolutely embedded into my culture. So that longevity of drinking was like getting to me. And I wasn't so much thinking about the health part of it, which is kind of strange, because later, now that I'm not drinking, I feel, oh my gosh, I feel so much more healthy. But I'm thinking more of the lifestyle of it, the need, the first thing when we were getting together with friends, the first thing that would pop into my head was, oh, yeah, get to drink, and get another opportunity to drink together. I was questioning that. Why is it that socially that takes precedent over the fact that we can connect with each other? So that was very, serious for me. But could I do this on my own? I didn't think so. So I was thinking about it for all those years. And when that advertisement came into my ear, I thought, that's for me. That's what's going to help me. So that's what happened.
So you were a pretty social drinker, nothing like drinking in the morning, nothing.
Oh, no, yeah, social drinker, but probably every day.
Every day, yeah.
Kids, cocktail hour and kids and cocktails, and it was just embedded into our culture. Though my husband's practically a non-drinker, but into culture and our friends' culture, and. Yeah, I didn't, there was something not right about this. We're not living like truly in the moment if we're messing with this stuff, this toxic stuff.
Then you'd think about it and like, it was on your mind. It was like 5 o'clock.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That resonates certainly. Yeah. Okay. So you hear this ad and you're like, okay.
So then I get into the study, and I have to say, everybody in this, from the admin to Dr. H.
Great guy.
Yeah, I'm incredible. Like, I feel like he's changed my life. He changed my life. He and the psychologist, Karina, who were with me for 14 weeks. Once a week, I would walk there and I would have my session with them. So the first 4 sessions are kind of getting to know me, hearing about my story, my backstory, my childhood story. I've had trauma. And as Dr. H says, this is your addiction is a result of that trauma. Your addiction isn't you. It's a result of having trauma. So
is the trauma something you can talk about or no?
Yeah, sexual abuse. Yeah, I also had a tyrant of a father. I have 12 brothers and sisters. Had a few of them have passed, and in order to manage them, I'm number 11 of 13. In order to manage them, he was very militant. 9 boys, 4 girls. I came at the very end, and he was very ill, and it was not. There was no love in that. Bringing, but
So you talked a lot about this in those sessions, in those first 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
And floodgates were opened, and I had been in psychoanalysis for several years, in and out of it actually, and then also regular psychology therapy. But I have to say, I feel like I'm pretty self-aware, but that psychoanalysis helped me a little bit, but it doesn't make you better. It takes, my husband was in psychoanalysis for 30 years, twice a week for 30 years. And he says it's so difficult to change your brain, So that's kind of what's so striking about my upcoming story to you, is because what I did in 5.5 hours changed my brain. So those sessions, we talk about my trauma, and basically they were therapy sessions. But the 4th session was my prep session for my dosing session. So the next Friday, I show up with my bag, some snacks and water and whatever else. I'm going to lay on the couch, but their couch is kind of soft. I've got a bad back, so I laid on the floor. They had the ready for me with a blanket on the bottom and then a sheet. And then I'm laying down. I have eye shades on. The lights are very dim. There's a playlist going on that Dr. H put together, a psilocybin playlist. And I have blood pressure monitor on my arm and a pulse monitor on my finger. And I have 2 comfortable places that I could lay, and it's one side or the other, basically, because of my back. So I start on my right side. They're behind me, sitting on the floor in a small little room. Lights are low, music is playing, and I'm going in. And that prep session, they prepped me to tell me, please, you'll have full control of your executive function when you're dosing.
Yeah.
You can choose to talk to us if you need us, if you get scared, if you anything, we'll be there. Otherwise, we won't say a word. That's kind of strange, right? Okay. So I'm in. And I'm starting to get a little scared. And they told me, if you get a little scared, if you want us to come and hold you or hug you or hold your hand. So I asked Dr. H, I was getting a little scared. Dr. H, can you please hold my hand? And I could hear them breathing. We're all that close. It's that intimate. But the way to maximize this experience, the only way, and I am 100% in girl, this is just who I am. I'm all or nothing, is that you have to surrender. So I'm hearing them. I totally block them out. I'm going in, baby. I'm going to maximize this. I only get 2 dosing sessions throughout this whole study. They're spaced out 1 month apart, and I'm going to maximize this because I want to quit drinking. And by the way, I forgot to mention that in those prep sessions, we talked about intention. Well, what is your intention? This is after I've laundried all my childhood trauma. Well, I'd like to quit drinking. I would really like, okay, then think about this, right? Either write a journal or just know that this is your intention, and just keep, like a mantra, keep repeating this to yourself, So I'm in. I got a little scared. He holds my hand.
Can I ask how large a dose?
4 grams.
4 grams. So that's, for people who don't know, that is a large dose of psilocybin.
And it's not based on weight or anything. It's based on it's across the board. Everybody gets 4 grams based on the science.
Was it in like a capsule?
Yeah, synthetic.
Okay.
So, and by the way, they had so much protocol to follow. So when they were administering the capsule, it was in a bowl. They give me the bowl for me to take. They can't give it to me. Somebody else has to outside, not Karina, the psychologist, not Dr. H. Somebody else outside has to witness this, and they sign off. Like, there's so much. The paperwork was incredible. The fact that they can pull this off is astounding, because I'm telling you, my paperwork alone was, stacks and stacks.
Well, that's because it's technically still a Schedule 1.
Yes.
Considered dangerous drug by the feds, right? Yeah.
Trying to get it FDA approved, and you have to go through all this stuff,
Right.
So I applaud them for having the patience to do this, and they have to do this with everybody. So, okay, so back to so I take the pill, I'm in there, he holds my hand, and I'm like, okay, I'm going in. I'm okay now. And I let go, and I go in, and I'm in, and I'm in. So many different things that had happened while I was there. And I should have journaled, because I can't remember a lot of them, but I'll tell you a few that I did. I saw myself in my mother's womb. I see this baby in my, I know it was me. It was me. I sobbed. I wailed so hard at one point that I only heard the last wail. And because I heard it from a distance, and then it came closer. So then I must have got into my executive function. It was such a deep, sorrowful wail. It sounded primal. Like, I didn't recognize this voice. This was, I don't know if it was the baby me sobbing. I don't know, but it was so foreign to me. And I used to sing for a living. So I know I'm a very auditory person. I know my voice. That was like, oh my gosh, it was even painful to hear that voice. It was so painful. I cried for all my 3 sisters. And I even said, Karina, oh my God, Karina, I'm crying because my mother, I had a aha moment between the girls that they weren't given the time that I have 13 children. My mother was lovely and she did the best she could, but we weren't given the time and the nurturing that a mother, because I'm a mother, and I was mourning for my mother, and then all of my sisters who are mothers. And I got out of I'm still kind of in it, but Karina, and I know she's a mother. And so I was mostly in, like 98% in, but there were a few times when I would talk to them. One time in particular.
When you say in
my brain, I blocked them out.
You were, okay. So, right. You're completely.
Yeah. So I'm going back in and
going deep, and then okay. Got it. Thank you.
And then I would come. Yeah. So there was one sublime moment that I had that it felt like a come to Jesus moment. So all I can describe is I had no sense of self, no feeling of body, only perfection. And the image I saw in my head was Jesus, the lake, the greenery behind him, the sun shining. Maybe it's an image we've all seen in the Catholic Church where I grew up. The feeling in my body was nothing. It was just so sublime and perfect. Like it wasn't even floating, because I would have recognized myself floating. It was nothingness and everythingness, if that makes sense. I said to the doctor, Dr. H and Karina, you guys, this is crazy. Oh my God, I'm having oh my God, this is, oh my, I couldn't believe it. I said, this is so sublime. I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling guilty that I'm here and you guys are sitting there watching, listening. I feel guilty that, no, don't feel guilty. This is.
Wait, you felt guilt because they weren't having the experience?
Exactly. Oh. Yes. Thank you. I didn't finish that.
No. Yeah.
I was feeling this perfection, whatever it was. And they had nothing. I mean, they were just there for me. I mean, that's kind of extraordinary. Anthony, think of the good fortune I had to be admitted to this study, to be given 14 weeks with these extraordinary human beings that are just giving to me 2 full dosing days, which are 8 hours, just for me and my healing. So imagine how I was feeling so guilty and selfish. And so, okay, but they quelled my fear, my guilt. They, don't worry, this is for
how do you have any idea how long that went on, or no?
I don't, but I think it was fleeting.
Okay, but it felt like it felt very profound, and
it was so profound. It was probably the most profound experience in the whole thing. But Anthony, the more I know about this, and the more my husband, he's an ophthalmologist. He was about 40 plus years of heavy meditation. He went and lived in India with the Maharishi. He lived in Honduras teaching meditation. He floated, in his head, I guess. He's done deep meditation, like monk-like meditation. When it took me a few days after I processed, after coming home from dosing, I would just tell him things in spurts, because you're still processing, you're still inside your being, like still peeling layers away and still discovering. Oh my gosh, the discover. And I've got so much to tell you about the self-discovery. But so I wasn't very vociferous with him after my dosing. I was quiet for 3-5 days, but little bits, I tell him stuff. And eventually he said, this is crazy. You did in 5.5 hours what took me 40 years to do. This is crazy. So guess what he did? He became a facilitator.
Oh, did he really? No, well, he'd be really well suited to that given his experience, right?
Especially with the meditation, psychoanalysis, and now facilitator.
So did you do any of the meditation work with him through those years? Were you predisposed to that?
I'm that hyper one that can't even shut anything off.
Okay. So you had sort of divergent spiritual paths in a way, but would you say was there anything in your makeup that made you predisposed to be open to this experience? I mean, you generally seem like an open person to, okay.
I would say no. And I'll tell you why. There is a scientific researched reason why now. Can I jump around a little bit? Because okay, so I'll just finish that dosing. So I had 2 dosing sessions 1 month apart, right? And each time I went in 110%. And I met my sexual predator, by the way, and I gave it to him really good. I closed that chapter.
Was that encounter? Did it feel like real? Did it feel?
My brain, it did. I think it was my desire, my revenge, my desired revenge in my head. So it was I did replay what had happened, yes, but getting back at him, I revenged in my own way, you know.
And now a message from our sponsor. The Think Neuro podcast is brought to you by Pacific Neuroscience Institute Foundation, a nonprofit 501c3 organization. If you're inspired by what you hear and wish to support our mission of education through innovation, please visit pacificneuro.org/foundation. And just for our guests who might not have never done psilocybin or any other psychedelic, when you opened your eyes, did things look differently? Did you see things? Did you see streaks? What were the sensations, visual and otherwise?
So
when you weren't in,
back to the study, it took me about an hour and a half to stand up. My head was pounding, and I think it was because of all the firing in my brain. My eyes were black and blue and looked like golf balls. I must have been wailing so much. At one point during the session, there was snot, so much snot coming down but I didn't care because I wanted to maximize, right? You really, really have to eschew your ego, and surrender 100% in order to maximize. If you are self-conscious, then you're not in it fully. Doesn't matter what sounds come out of your body or doesn't matter. Nothing.
Well, isn't that what one of the big goals is with psychedelics is the ego dissolution?
Yes.
And when people talk about the ego just dissolving and you sort of feel very at one with everything. Was that your sensation?
Okay. So Dr. H described it from up until the age of 12 or 14. By the age of 12 or 14, we've cordoned off an area in our brain that we're going to live in for the rest of our lives. What the psilocybin does, and by the way, that this area where we're living in is based on all your prior experiences growing up. They're all here. And I saw somebody change from a kid to an adolescent, a dear friend of mine's son, sweet, lovely son. And by the time he hit 13, he changed. It's like this. It was like his ego was formed. He was, he's self-conscious now. Before that, they aren't. So dissolves your ego and enables you to go into the rest of that area that was cordoned off. Okay. So this is the part that is really, really crazy that I wanted to share with you. You asked me one question. Did I see things differently? Okay. First of all, yes, visually you see things. What that does is it brings you back to awe, brings you back to what a child sees, like things for the first time. Awe, right? Because now I'm in a fresh area that wasn't used over and over again, right? I'm in this fresh area. Things were HD. Outside was extraordinary. Everything, the whole environment was amazing. You feel a little calmer. You feel one with nature, one with the universe. That stuff starts to dissipate after a few days. Okay. I am going to share with you now what has stayed so far, what has stuck. Okay. So
just wait, before you do that, just let me tell you. So when you talk about dissipate, so how long was the first experience total? Like
my dosing session?
Yeah.
So I get there at 8. I take that pill by 9. I'm tripping by 9:30, and by 2:30, I'm coming out. Maybe 2:33 coming, and then it took me an hour and a half to get up the first time. Maybe an hour to get up the second time. Just the headache for like 3 days.
Oh, really?
That's to be expected, and you feel a little nauseous too.
But nothing that would dissuade you from.
Oh my God!
That's a small thing. Okay.
So let me jump forward to we were talking about the brain, and now I'm reading everything and on all the studies and the researchers, and there's a real badass guy, researcher at the Imperial College London, Professor Carhart Harris, who studies the brain through an MRI on psychedelics. Okay. So I'm kind of jumping around, but let me start first with my first thing. I'm a year and a half sober. I don't crave any alcohol. I'm still entertaining, still around my friends and family that drink, and I am fine. Fine. That's extraordinary.
And this is after two.
This is after my first dose. That was June 30, 2021.
Okay, right. So any craving for alcohol vanished after that
first dose. Right?
Wow. Had you talked about the potential for, I mean, I think the answer is yes here, but tell me, you had talked about the potential for that to happen in the preparatory sessions with Dr.
H and Karina. Yeah. Yeah. Talked about my intent. Right?
Yeah. So then you fulfilled your intent. It sounds like it worked as planned. Well, that's what the data says, right?
Let me tell you why, though. Why I think it happened for me. Because I surrendered 110%. I was in this to do this. So my intent was extremely strong, but if it won't happen, I'm sure, unless you just give in. Because if you're hanging on to that ego, you're hanging on. I guess since we're born, we're given tools and learn tools to survive. So now at 60 years old, I'm asked to let go of the one thing that's kept me alive, my ego, right? Let it go. You'll be safe, but let it go. Well, you have to trust that. And I know that's difficult. But I believe that that's how I did this.
Wow. And so that's what the research says, is that one session like this can actually.
But there was a few people in my study that I don't think that happened for them. I think it reduced alcohol. A few of them, yes. And a few of them, it reduced the amount of alcohol they're drinking. So I don't know if it's across the board. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong when I say it's because I surrendered, fully surrendered. I don't know. But so let me tell you the rest, because I think there's a bigger benefit that I'm experiencing, that I'm telling you, Anthony, has been life-changing for me. Let alone this, okay? Let alone the not craving alcohol. Okay, here's a perk. My fear of flying after 40 years is 95% gone. I don't sweat. I don't get anxious. 95% gone. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a benefit that you didn't expect. Why do you think that happened?
Well, this is not a one-stop. This is a one-stop shop. This isn't custom tailored for addiction or flying, and I'll tell you why. No, I'm not going to tell you why. You know why. The ego's dissolved. Now we have access to the full brain, and that fear of flying was stuck in that brain, that earlier brain.
That section of brain that you talk about us living in.
Exactly.
Cordon everything off and decide this is the place, this is how it's going to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to stay for the rest of our lives. But now, through dissolving that, I have access to new connections, new neuronal connections.
Yeah.
We have a full brain, I guess, or a bigger brain. But wait till you hear. And I am so excited to share this with you. So I don't crave alcohol. Fear of flying, 95% gone. I am smarter. I am connecting dots that I was not able to do before. And I'll tell you how. Why? When our daughters were teenagers, we'd be sitting at the table and having discussions like, families do, let's say, about the global news or whatever. And they would come up with stuff that I always thought to myself, what the hell? How come I can't come up with this stuff? Pardon my language. And I just always felt inadequate. Okay. I'm educated. I have a master's degree. I got everything late, mind you, because Music was my first career. But I just didn't have the capacity to. I never felt like I belonged on that table. So a recent article in the London Times, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Professor Carhart Harris from the Imperial College of London, who studies the brain on psychedelics. This is why I wasn't able. Chronic stress degenerates neurons. Whether it's depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, significant adversity or trauma, they show cortical thinning. Psychedelics and other drugs such as ketamine replenish the synaptic connections that have atrophied under stress. People under severe strain are just trying to hang on in there. When the brain goes into defense mode, in other words, connections harden, neuronal branches are stripped away, and thought processes get stuck in a rut. What the psychedelic gives you is something more than just getting by. It's like you can come back and start exploring again. You can come out of your shell. There's my science. That's what's happened to me. And this is even bigger than me not craving alcohol, as silly as that sounds, if that sounds silly.
No, not at all.
I feel like a badass smart person right now. I'm 60 and I have been given a whole new lease on life. Like, I feel worthy. That is huge, Anthony.
So do you feel different in conversation with your family? And
unbelievable, everybody. And I was always highly opinionated, but I don't think I could back anything up. Now I have everything. I've got it. I can do this.
Wow.
I feel like I belong again. I mean, imagine what it gives you, not just a smarter brain, but I'm worthy now. So that's huge. That's huge.
So this is wonderful. Was this after one session? And if so, what did the second session add?
Okay, let me tell you this. First session, June. Second session, July. The following April, my husband and I are in Berlin. And we said, good night, kiss. 10 minutes later, are you awake? Yeah, what do you need? Robert, I am so off the charts curious. I think this is because of the dosing. I can't stop being curious about anything. It's like, I think that's a new perk for me. So that was 8 months later, 10 months later, I'm realizing a new perk. And then after that, I realized, only recently, I'm realizing about the connecting dots. So the curiosity was last April, and I would say, we're in January, I would say October of last year, of 2022, I noticed that I'm smart. So that's a year and 4 months later.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
So it has staying power. I mean,
it has staying power. But the thing is, one needs, I think, to be self-aware. Like, I'm listening to myself, I'm watching myself. Look at me. This is different about me. Oh my gosh, look at me. I need to know everything. I need to know where the root of it. That wasn't me before. Before I was like, if it's something technical, I don't want to hear it. Why? Because I'm stuck there. I didn't have, what did he say? I had the thinning of the, neuronal branches. I was stuck. So now I'm unstuck and I'm I'm open to learning that technical thing. I'm open. Where does that begin? Why does that happen? How does that happen? This wasn't me before.
God, that is truly profound. And now we're how far out are we now from? So it's
So I'll be 2 years in June. 2 years sober. That was my first dosing session.
Wow. So tell me about the second one in relation to the first. You must have had an idea of what to expect. Did you need the second one?
I wanted to maximize. The second session, it was that, I think that's where I saw my predator. I faced my predator, my sexual predator. It's I don't know if I can tell you anything specific, but one thing does come to mind. You know, that playlist. I'm very auditory, so I had Dr. H turn it way down. But it really enhances the trip. I don't know if you've ever.
I've heard it. Yeah, the playlist they put together.
Yeah. So there's
it's fantastic.
It is. There's tribal music, and it really intensifies and enhances. And I would say, if anybody was going to do this, they should absolutely not skip that factor, because that's part of the setting. You know, setting is really, really deeply important. You know, you've got to feel safe. You know, if you're uncomfortable with somebody so close to you, maybe the person will be just at the doorway, and the eye shades enable you to really lose yourself within yourself, lose yourself in your brain. So that's really important. And that setting is really important. Okay, I wrote a few notes down. This I'd love to share with you too, if you don't mind. I hope I'm not taking over, because
no, not at all. I had one more question about the session. When you mentioned the music, did you have any of the imagery from Louis Schwartzberg? Any of the video imagery? Because he was working on some stuff with that. I don't know if that was part of your study or not.
Because I had eye shades on.
You had eye shades, so you didn't see. Okay.
No, I think for me, I haven't done both ways, but that eye shade thing is for me a no-brainer, because it shuts out the world and puts you cozy in your brain.
So you weren't compelled. You didn't. I mean, you weren't compelled any time to start just talking about what was going on. And
I did a few times. And then I would say, okay, I'm shutting you out. I'm going back in. And then
okay.
So I did a few times. There were a few times I talked to Karina, because, as I said, she was a mother, I'm a mother, and there's what I was seeing that mothers, anyway, I cried for a brother that passed away, and I was able to see why he was the kind of the jokester and prankster in my family, and out of 9 brothers, and I understood why he was, and that was his survival mechanism. He didn't have anything else. He wasn't educated, and it was this jokester prankster guy, and that was huge to put that connection together, because I remembered him as the prankster, brother that nobody paid attention to, or people were pissed off at all the time. But I understood the root of the why he was that way, and I had much compassion for that.
When you were in, you saw this. It became clear to you. Yeah.
So there's these connections that you make, and they may not come until 3-6 months later.
Yeah.
The revelations of.
Has it gotten you any? I mean, a lot of people have a psychedelic experience and then become very interested in meditation and mindfulness. Has that happened?
So my mindfulness is basically being out in nature and walking my dog. That's my meditation. I would say that I'm 15 or 20% more aware in that direction. So if I'm feeling a little uneasy, I may go into a breathing thing for a minute or two. So I'm not that meditator that can leave the room for 30 minutes. And I don't have that, but I'd like to work up to 10 minutes. Yes.
Okay. So that's an interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are so many benefits, as I told you, that I'm experiencing. I don't crave alcohol. My fear of flying's mostly gone. I'm smarter. I have relentless curiosity. I'm a little calmer. I appreciate nature more, even though I did before, just more. Life is brighter. It's brighter. This is really important. Karina, the psychologist, at the very end of each session, she would say this to me, and it just stuck with me. And it's now my new mantra: be kind to yourself. Listen to your needs, what your needs and your desires are. Be kind to yourself. I thought that was so profound. So guess what? I am being kind to myself, and I'm listening to my brain who says, I hate cooking, and I'm not cooking anymore.
You gave up. You said enough of that.
I gave up. So those are my benefits, but I have a few cons, and I think these are important to illustrate. Seeing truths. I am seeing truths in relationships that I didn't see before.
And does that mean you're casting some of those aside, or?
No, maybe it's sibling things that are dysfunctional, and I'm seeing them way more clearly, and maybe I'm not tolerating them anymore.
I see. So
because I'm not stuck in my former ego, right? So that's kind of a con. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. It's a fabulous thing, but it's causing some strife in a few relationships.
Because you maybe tolerated things before that you're not.
Yeah, and now I don't have the patience for it. Here's another one. I'm aware that much of the socialization I was doing was driven first by an excuse to drink. So that goes to my number 3, not seeking out friends who rely heavily on alcohol because the main commonality is no longer there. So that has shifted my social life a little bit. I mean, I still see my dear, dear friends, and they drink and I'm fine. But ones that maybe were in my peripheral, maybe that was my the common thread, the drinking. And I don't desire that anymore. So is that a con? I mean, these are all actually pros, right? I mean,
yeah, but I see why you might, put them in a sort of mixed bag, it has consequences.
Right.
Do you think people notice that you're different now? Or, I mean, have you heard, has anybody said, hey,
So yes, I hear, even though I'm hyper and I'm very energetic, people say I'm calmer. Maybe my knee-jerk reactions, I am not as quick to respond in the old manner. I still do, but maybe I'm less of that. So I'd be, I grew up with a very militant, harsh, tyrannical father, and my knee-jerk reaction is that, because that's that's how I was. But
where was that, by the way? Where did you grow up?
Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh, okay. And then tell me what you did. What is your career? You said you've had a couple. So
I used to be a singer-songwriter. I moved here from Canada to here to pursue music.
Okay. To LA or to the States?
To the States, to LA.
Okay.
So, right. I saw another story came up and I just made a connection that I was stuck in that part. I was leaving music at around 30 years old. I was here and I was very depressed. And I had a friend who said, what are you so depressed about? You could work here, you could do this, you could go to school. Because when I first moved here, I saw that everybody was educated. And when we grew up, where I grew up, my family, education wasn't a word that was in the house. It was, we all had dropped jobs at a very young age. So I had my first job, I was 11, and I was a survivor, right?
Your first job was at 11?
Yeah, my first job was 11, taking 2 buses across town. And
to do what?
answering a phone for a newspaper.
Wow.
So I was a go-getter. But when I moved here, I felt very inadequate because I had a little bit of success in Canada singing, but moved here, everybody went to UCLA, USC, and I'm going, oh my gosh, how did I miss this boat? I didn't understand, didn't know. So friends throughout the years knew and recognized that I was insecure about my lack of education. And a dear friend of mine at 30 years old, I'm 30 now, said, well, what are you so depressed about? You could get a job there and you can go to school, go to SMC. And I said to him, I can. He says, yeah, of course you can. And I started bawling. I didn't know I could because nobody told me, because I was stuck here. Do you understand this connection I just made right now? The word education was not in this part of my brain ever, formal education. So I was stuck in that. Nobody said you can go get it. I know that sounds strange, but this is my reality.
That was your bias.
So I just, the floodgates start, and then I went to Santa Monica, SMC, Santa Monica College, chipped away. Then I got married, started having a family, still chipped away, one class at a time, backpack on my walk to SMC like a trooper. And then guess what? I transferred to UCLA. So I transferred to UCLA, I get an undergrad in history, and then I took a leave because of the kids, blah, blah, blah. I finally graduate. I'm close to 50. And then I hear the word gerontology. And I said to my husband, what is that? Because he said, it's the study of aging, working with aging people. I said, I love aging people. I've done it all my life, looking after my uncle in Camarillo. And anyway, I said, I want to do that. So guess what? I got into USC and I got a master's in gerontology. So now I went to UCLA, and USC, and now I'm one of them. But imagine, Anthony, the significance of this story is that I was so stuck in that part of my brain that I didn't know I could get educated.
Yeah.
No. So imagine what this could do for so many people that don't have the knowledge or the capacity to think outside of their ego.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I've heard that. I think it's Sam Harris, the podcaster and neuroscientist, who said he sees psychedelics as a shortcut. Meditation is one way, and he's a fan of both. But he says psychedelics can really kind of be a shortcut to this sort of these realizations that you've described. And what you said with your husband, he pursued the meditation route. And I bet you it's paid benefits that he's, doesn't even know. But you've taken this other route. And that's the thing. I think that's the power, right?
He's he's writing about the intersection between psychedelics, meditation, and and it's fascinating.
So you mentioned earlier, and again, if you don't have knowledge here, that's fine. What did you talk to other people in the study?
Yes.
And you've compared notes?
Yes.
A little bit. Okay.
Only a few people, because I guess with their protocol, they're not allowed to put people together, but they said if it's true, they were able to somehow. Anyway, so we've had a few Zoom sessions and in-person meetings, and it's the same people that show up. And I know two have had success like me. I've not been in touch with them in recent months, but and then a couple maybe that are on their way. And but it would be, I know for me it's been the most profound experience in my life. Full stop. And I may, if I remember correctly, a few of them, if not all of them, had said the same.
So one last thing, and then we should probably wrap up. Has it changed your your feeling is about spirituality or any sort of afterlife at all?
Great question. Through a lot of discussion with my husband and his writing of this and researching of this paper that he's writing, I have to tell you that it's taking the magic thought out of magic mushrooms, meaning the after. So no, I have no feeling or connection or belief in that. So
Is it more the moment?
it's yes, more in the moment, and it's just what the brain is doing. It's all it's all what we are doing. I am the driver.
Yeah.
It's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
There's nothing magical out there.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, I so thank you for sharing your experience here. And I really wanted to hear from somebody in the trial and just get the nitty gritty and the big stuff. And you've given us both. So thank you. Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for hearing me out. I told the studies, I told Dr. H and Karina, I'm shouting it from the rooftops. And kudos to you for exploring this. So I really appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Of course, anytime. Vicki, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with everything.